Welcome to Things My Mother Forgot to Mention.
The podcast where we say everything our mothers didn't.
I'm Jan, a trauma therapist and author turned rogue storyteller, here to talk openly about the body, aging, and all the, wait, what? Moments of womanhood.
And I'm Patty, an online business and tech nerd whose purpose is to elevate the voices of women in our world and who doesn't believe in taboo topics. Things My Mother Forgot to Mention is the podcast for every woman who's ever said, wait, why didn't anyone mention this to me?
Join Jan and Patty, two outspoken, curious, outrageous women, as they dive headfirst into a messy, magical, and often WTF realities of aging, health, and quite simply being a woman.
From rogue chin hairs and vaginal thinning
to mental health, perimenopause, and scalp cancer. Yes, really.
Nothing is off limits. It's funny, it's raw, it's real talk your mother definitely skipped.
Let's get into it.
Hello, Jan.
Hey there, Patty. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing quite well, thank you.
It's exciting. It's almost September here, and I'm very excited for that. I'm not that it's going to get cooler here, but I can pretend.
That's great. I've been off. I've been flying around and just got home the other day. I was in Cincinnati, and then I went to Chicago, and then I came home. So, just a little brief 7-day trip.
Yeah. And then for next month, are you traveling again for your Hawkeye workshop for level 3?
Level 3, going to Nashville. So I'm getting ramped up because it's fall.
Yeah. All the workshops are coming.
It is. It gets a little intense, but
yeah. But you're a pro at this. But today I'm super excited because our last episode was on coming of age, and today we're going to kind of keep going down that road, but we have a guest with us today to talk about coming of age. And it happens to be my sister-in-law of 21 years. And her name is Dr. Tracy Meyer, and I will tell you a little bit about her. Dr. Meyer has been a psychology professor for over 20 years. She is married and has 2 children, a 17-year-old daughter and a 12-year-old son. Her research interests are in sexual harassment and gender microaggressions against women. And she is a professor at a local community college here and has been for many years. And some of the classes that she teaches, which we're kind of going to talk a little bit about, are human sexuality and lifespan development, which makes her have such a very interesting interaction with young adults that are starting to come of age and that have come of age, and sort of her unique experience of working with people like that and what they've learned. So welcome, Tracy.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So if you would like to start by, sharing a little bit about yourself, anything you want to, or if there's anything you want to share about your coming of age personally that your mother forgot to mention, or that you've learned, or, anything like that.
Well, definitely when your parents were baby boomers, there wasn't a lot of talk about this stuff. When I got my period the first time, I remember I was upstairs and I yelled for my mom. She was dying. We had company over, so I was like even more scared.
Ooh.
Yeah. I was like, I think it happened. And then my mom decided to give me like a brief overview of like tampons and pads really quick. And like the tampons scared me to death. And I was like, I don't want to do that one. And she's like, all right, just use a pad. And she just left. And that was pretty much all
That
I
was it.
got told.
Yeah.
That was it. That was my one and only thing about it. One other thing that sticks out to me, I remember at one point, I must have been maybe 11 or 12. Maybe I was younger, I don't know, but I was at the doctor's and and for some reason didn't have anything on. I just had on like a little gown and was a male doctor. And I remember he like peeked underneath the gown and he said,
dear.
"Oh yes, she has her breast buds." And I remember being so confused, like, my breast buds?
Whoa, I've never even heard that before.
Never
Breast
heard that
buds.
before.
Yes, it's like the before boobs.
Yeah.
Start to come in. So
Okay.
yeah, it's like your trainer boobs.
Yeah. But you know, the way he referred to him, and of course, then they was your mother in the room or no?
Yeah, yeah, but then that was just it. That was just like that. That's just all there is
Okay,
to
that's
that. And
how it
that
is.
was there was no other conversation about it ever again. So it was, yeah, and I was never, really told about birth control or anything like that. I mean, I knew enough about it to know that I needed it if I was going to be having sex. And us Gen Xers were, we were in the Wild West. So I just called the doctor myself, made the appointment, went in, had my first pap smear, got got my birth control. Like my parents knew nothing about it. I just went and did it all
Wow.
myself when I
Wow,
was like
that's how
16
old
years
were you,
old.
Tracy, when you did that?
Huh?
How old were you?
I believe I was 16.
Wow, and they let 16-year-olds go in and get birth control?
Yeah, they did. Oh,
Oh,
California. That's a different. I'm not sure
I
that's
was
not
gonna say
happening here
you're
in
in California. Oh, that's
Yes, I was
yeah.
I was born and raised in California. I didn't move
Okay,
to
I was saying
Texas until
Texas,
I
I can't
was
imagine them
16.
doing that in Texas.
Yeah, no. I just
Yeah,
actually
no.
had to make my daughter her first appointment with an OB/GYN, and
Hmm.
I will be going with her
Good.
and she's 17, but also I don't even think if she would know how to do that.
Hmm.
Like it's
Yeah, it's a little
like
different time. Yeah,
it
like you
is.
said, it was different then than it is now. I mean, I think there's something to all the technology, which ironically shelters people a little bit more than we were when we were just like re let loose to do whatever we were gonna do and like figure out how to do things and take care of yourself. And
Yeah.
yeah, different
Well, I
times.
also went to Catholic school, and at my Catholic school, it was if a girl got pregnant, she was kicked out. The boy wasn't, of course,
Right,
but
of
Right, of
course.
course.
the girl was kicked out, and so I would had that, Catholic like guilt around me,
Yeah.
like I can't do this, and then I had a lot of my friends who actually got pregnant and chose to have an abortion, and when we asked them like, well, were you on birth control? They literally would answer, birth control is a sin,
Oh dear.
and I was like.
Wow.
I
But a,
feel like maybe having an abortion would be more of a sin,
I would say,
but
yeah, for
think,
rating sins.
I
right.
mean, if we're gonna put them on like the scales of just of where sins are, like it just we're gonna do like it was. I mean, that was their answer was we've been told our whole lives that birth control is a sin and you shouldn't
Right,
do it.
right.
But then you have, 14 and 15 and 16-year-olds getting pregnant and not
Yeah.
wanting to be kicked out of school and not wanting their parents to kick them out of the house and not, at least we had the option
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
California
Yeah.
there. But that was, when it was just, me and my friends talking and figuring stuff out on our own. Yeah, my parents never once talked to me about sex
Yeah.
or anything having to do
Hmm.
with it at all. Nothing. There was not, I never had the talk.
Right.
That has never happened.
Good talk.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah.
I definitely have done things differently with my kids. And being in my field in psychology and especially in developmental psychology, which is my specialty, I know how important it is to make sure kids know about their body, know the correct terms for their body parts. There's actually research that shows that children that know the correct terms for their body parts are actually less likely to get sexually abused,
Really?
Mm.
because they can speak more clearly about it and they know
Yeah.
their boundaries and things like that. So, not calling it the wee wee hoo hoo ha ha,
Or down there. That's the
yeah,
thing.
down
Down
there
there.
area, swimsuit area. It's like, what does
Yeah.
that mean? My belly
Yeah.
button? Like,
Yeah. Well, I would imagine it also lessens a lot of the shame that's around our body, right?
yeah,
When you're armed with the actual words of it, it's less intimidating, it's less shameful because you can say my vagina versus my bathing suit area or my whatever insert cutesy pootsy whatever term. And
right.
like I think that it allows you to, I mean, it also is like it allows you to own it, I think, a little bit different too, because it's my vagina. It has a word, it has a, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. It does. So since my kids, when I had my daughter, I mean, she was maybe 4 or 5, I got her this book. It's one of my favorite books, actually. It was one of her favorite books at the time, and it's called "It's Not the Stork." And
Mm.
it pretty
Oh, that's
much,
so
yeah,
cute. It's
yeah,
not the
it's a
sport.
fantastic book. It is right on the age level of like 5 and 6-year-olds, and it gives a very basic understanding of anatomy and how babies are made and how there's different types of families. and that all of this is, normalized at a very early age. And my daughter loved that book. She would always bring it out, and my poor husband would always be like, "Oh God, we got to read that book."
That's great. I'm gonna
He
check into that.
wasn't a huge fan of that. And I think the funniest part is my daughter, what's important, very important for raising children who are aware of their what sex is and sexuality in general is to always keep the conversation going and always have it, answer their questions and don't go too far over, like answer them basically and then see if they need more, right? Because, sometimes they don't need the full thing. They just need,
Right,
a small thing.
right.
So she was always very interested in different things. And one day we were reading and, they talk about like how boys have so much sperm and you only need one to make a baby. She said, "Well, what happens to all the other sperm, mommy?" And I say, "Well, they get absorbed and they die off." And she started crying. And
Oh,
she's like, "Well, really, all the other sperm died? That's so sad."
that's so cute. She's,
She was so sad for it. I was like, I don't think I've had ever seen anyone cry over sperm, but that's pretty hilarious. And I was like,
yeah.
"Yep, yep." Um, I mean, that was it. And then there was another time when she was maybe seven, 7 or 8, and we're in the car, and she said, I don't know why, we saw birds, and she's like, "Birds lay eggs," and she's like, "Wouldn't it be funny if people laid eggs?" And I said, "Yeah, that would be funny, but then we'd have to sit on them like they do in a nest." And I said, "But all, pretty much mammals, including, I'm like, we know, that women have eggs. Ours are just inside." And she's like, "Okay." And then we were driving, and nothing happened. And then she's like, "But how exactly does the sperm get to the egg?"
Oh.
And so I was like, "Okay, we're going to this conversation now." I was like, "Well, the man puts his penis in the woman's vagina and the sperm come out of it and they swim up and they make it to the egg. And one of them makes it to the egg. And if that happens, then there may be a baby that, comes 9 months later." And she's like, "Oh, okay." And I was like, "All right, we're done. Keep
That's
driving,
good.
listening to our little happy, Mickey Mouse Clubhouse music." And then, like, literally 5 minutes later, she said nothing. And just out of the blue, she said, "So Daddy put his penis in your vagina."
Oh no.
Oh, that is adorable. That's so amazing.
That's so funny. How great. Yeah.
I almost crashed the car on that one. I'm glad you come to these epiphanies while we're driving.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, you have to be
Kids
able to
are
do
so
that.
curious, isn't it?
Yeah.
But
But
it's talking, it's just that continual talking about
yeah.
how,
Whereas it,
this is
my
what's going to
generation,
happen and these are the differences and you're going to
right,
she started getting hair in her armpits. She's like, "What does this mean?" And I was like, "You're going to start going through puberty and you're going to have your differences." And we talked about her period and what that was going to be like. And, when I read the book to my son, he was so uninterested in it.
interesting.
He couldn't care less about anybody's anatomy or anything about it. He was just like, "All right, I get it now."
That's
He's
That's
great.
like, "This is my
funny.
penis and this is my scrotum. And I will have sperm at some point." The end. I was like, "Yep, that's pretty much it."
But that's
You
so
know,
great to normalize it for kids,
yeah, he just,
because back in my generation, no one talked about it at all, and if you did, it was, really like dirty, like you shouldn't be saying those things. So that's great, Tracy.
yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
think it's true now still. I mean, my kids have me as a mom, and I'm knowledgeable
Progressive in
about
that way,
how we
yeah.
have to get this. Like I got my daughter a book on it's called like The Girl's Guide to Puberty or something, and I let her read it on her own and said, "If you have any questions about it, come and ask me." And her friends would come over, and it would be like they were reading like a banned book. Like they would be like,
Right.
"Oh, like, oh, we're reading the book that
Especially around
says,
these parts.
yeah, it says vagina in it and says, penis." And I'm sure their parents probably weren't too happy about that, but I don't ban any books from being read.
Yeah.
So I gave her that
Better
book. I wanted her to
better
know.
they get it from books rather than real life experience when they don't know what's going on,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And that's what I
Absolutely.
really found when I started teaching, I didn't teach human sexuality at first. I mostly just taught lifespan development. And we talked a little bit about puberty, but really the importance is you don't wait until puberty to talk to your kids about
Mhm.
puberty and sex. And it doesn't have to
Great
be
idea.
the full shebang of everything, but having them understand the differences between male and female bodies and that this is yours and no one's allowed to touch it, right? And, unless you give them permission or, and something like that, like let them know those things, as soon as possible, as soon as they understand that stuff, is really important. And just continuing the conversation. And again, just making sure that you know what they're asking before you go any further. Like say a little bit and then wait to see do they want more. And if they
Yeah.
do, then move forward. Like move at their pace.
Yeah.
But my one of my colleagues had a pretty funny thing happen where she's a biology professor and her daughter came downstairs one day and she was like 12, 12, 13, and she said, "Mom, what's an orgasm?" And she was like making dinner, and she said, well, she's like, it has to do with sex. Do you want to know more? And her daughter's eyes got huge, and she's like, so it's not the plural of organism? She said,
Oh, that's hysterical. Organism.
Ah.
she said, no, no, that's not what it is. And she's like, okay, no, that's all. And she like ran away.
I love that. I love that idea of not getting flustered in the moment and being like, okay, this is it. I have to have the talk. And you kind of overshare and over explain, but that you take it in small bits and say, okay, here's what's the necessary information to
Yeah.
answer this question. And now let's see where we go from there and allow them to sort of lead the conversation in a way that feels safe and comfortable while they're supported. That's so brilliant and seems so basic and obvious, but so many people, I think, whether it's discomfort in speaking about it or, lack of knowledge, just sort of don't do
Yeah,
that.
no, 100%. And I see that more now, since we've been in Texas, that so many of my teenagers that come into school at 17, 18, 19, 20 years old never had, the talk, or whatever. Their parents really didn't, and then they don't know anything. Like they have really, I mean, I've been blown away by the lack of knowledge in some of these college students on how
Interesting.
pregnancy works, how birth control works, how like pretty much everything. I mean, a lot of the boys have no idea about their anatomy. They have,
Really?
yeah, they do not understand how sperm is made. They do not understand how it gets from the scrotum, out through the penis, about how the prostate plays in that. Like they don't know. Like it's when I'm teaching it to them, they're just like, whoa, that's interesting.
Oh.
And a lot of them thought that if you got a vasectomy, it meant that they took your balls.
Mm.
That's what a vasectomy was, that they just, and I was like, okay, no, that's castration. It's
Hmm.
we don't
You're
do that really anymore for any reason, unless it's like a really big medical concern that you have to, just testicular cancer, things like that. Um, like here's the vas deferens, here's where they make the incision, and here's, why that works and how, and they're all just like flabbergasted, like,
Mm.
whoa, that's what it is. Like the internal workings of their own body, they know very little about.
Wow.
And of course, even they know even less about female bodies.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the female, I have one of the biggest things I've had my female students say is, "Oh, I don't have to take my tampon out when I pee." And I'm like, yeah, no, those are different holes. You, yeah,
Yeah.
and they did not know that. They thought there pretty much was like one hole there for pee and menstruation and babies and
Hmm.
poop hole, and that was it. And I was
Right.
like, no, no, and then I mean, they were just literally were like, what? Like I mean, they had that little idea of how their bodies worked and what was
Hmm.
going on down there. Um,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
I mentioned in one of our last episodes that that was something that my mother told me was that I urinate out of my clitoris. And so that was something I believed for quite a while until my ex told me otherwise at the time. And he was like, no, 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 no.
I hate to break it to you, Patty, but that's great.
But yeah, I was kind of in that party of people. I would have been a student in your class being like, I pee out of my clitoris. Um,
Well, at least you knew the correct name for a part of your body.
Hmm.
true. It's true. So have you found over time since you've started, because how long have you been teaching these classes? For quite a long time, right?
Yeah, for over 20 years now, so it's been a while.
Wow, that's
So have
great.
you
That
found,
feels weird to say. Like I feel like old. I'm like, I've been teaching since the 70s, but 20 years is 2005.
yeah. So, so in that, have you found like have you since that when you first started teaching this to now, have you had to drastically or change your curriculum over the time over the years as you've seen sort of the knowledge or lack of knowledge that people have? Like you're coming to the game saying, "Oh, they're gonna know this stuff," and then you're like, "Oh boy, no, you don't." And so we've got to kind of scale back to some basic knowledge.
Yeah, I do that more so like in the human sexuality class we have, I mean, it's all focused towards that. So there's a lot of knowledge and it's just in that. In the human sexuality, I mean, in the human development class, I spend more time talking about it, about these issues, like from the time they're little, and talking about that. I even talk about it even as we start the semester when we start talking about uh, prenatal development and birth. Because again, a lot of people don't even know that conception happens in the fallopian tube. Like
Hmm.
they don't understand what that is. And so, I have to kind of pull back a little bit and be like, okay, let's go to the basics of like, what the ovaries do and how where eggs go through and how this works um and why it's important to talk to kids about it the whole time. In the human sexuality class, it's a little bit easier because I have more time to spend with them just talking about very specific subjects. Like
Hmm.
we have a chapter just on birth control where I can go over the different types and what's going on. And that's another thing that they have. I mean, I've heard the craziest things. I've heard people tell students have told me that birth control pills mean that if you take birth control pills, it means you have a bunch of dead babies in your uterus. And that a birth control pill, you still get pregnant, but the baby just like stays inside of you
Oh
and
my
doesn't come
Oh
out.
my God.
So every month you're just having like
I'm
babies
just
that
a
don't get born.
walking graveyard.
Yeah, it's like like an embryonic grave happening in there, and that's what's going on. And I was like, oh no.
Wow.
Not how it works. They don't understand that hormonal birth control makes it so that you don't ovulate. That therefore, if there is no egg to fertilize, you will not
There's
get
no
pregnant.
pregnancy, right?
Yeah, and that there's non-hormonal forms of birth control that some people have to take, and that they have to work differently, right? And they do different things. And I mean, I show them the correct way to put a condom on. I used to be able to have Planned Parenthood come, and they did a fantastic presentation on the different types of birth control that have been used like since the beginning of time. Because it's
Mm.
all, yeah, really, it's really interesting the historical ways that
Ooh.
would
So
do
is
it.
Planned Parenthood not able to do it anymore, or
Oh,
is
we
it?
are not allowed to bring them on campus
That's
anymore
what I was going to
in
say. I'll
Texas.
bet you
Yes, I
guys in
was.
Texas. I don't
We're in
know.
Texas. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
I was told that they do not align with our values.
I see.
And I wasn't sure. I was like, I don't know what that means. We're a public college. We're not,
Right.
affiliated to anything,
Our
but they,
values, and what would that
yeah.
be? Right.
So
Mhm.
well, yeah, I was told I could not do that anymore. So that sucked.
Yeah.
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 But let's see,
So
a couple other weird things. They thought they couldn't get pregnant if they had sex outside when it was cold. Yes,
that's gross.
but only when it's
Oh.
cold.
Mm.
Yes,
Sure.
because
The sperm freezes.
the sperm, I guess, is unable to migrate. I don't know, and then but it
Mm.
had to
It's
be
too
cold
chilly.
outside.
It's
Yes.
out its
Slower
coat.
swimmer. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes, and
swimming's
so
Yeah.
for
hard.
that, that's when you can't get pregnant. You can't get pregnant in a hot tub. That was another
Sure.
one
Sure.
because the sperm, I don't know, boil to death. So that can happen. You can't get pregnant if the girl's on top because all the sperm just fall out. And so, they still think they can't get pregnant the first time they have
Right.
sex. They can't get
Mm.
pregnant when they're on their period. Um,
Right. They can't get
with
pregnant. I'm sure they think if He doesn't ejaculate in her.
Oh yeah, pull out method, big time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I actually had a husband and wife take my class together. And that was real interesting because he was an oversharer and she was not. And
I think
so,
I know what that is.
yes, and he did share that their method was pull-out method. And I said, that is not a great method. Like there's you can still get pregnant that way. And she was like hiding under the table because she was
Right.
like,
Oh
why are you
no.
sharing this with everybody? But they really do think that that is a plausible, type of birth control, and it is not. None of those are. But
Right.
again, they don't get any type of real talking to about sexuality at home, and
Yeah.
they don't get it in school.
Yeah.
They just started in talking about a little bit about birth control in our schools here in Texas, but they pretty much are abstinence only
Yeah.
education for the most
That's
part.
just too bad.
Um,
Yeah.
which is why Texas always has one of the highest rates of teenage pregnancy, and
Oh, it
we are
does.
number one in the country on
Really?
multiple teenage pregnancies.
Oh my
So
gosh.
we are the state that has more multiple teenage pregnancies than any other state.
Everything's bigger in
Yeah,
Texas.
that's right, including our teenagers having
Not necessarily that
babies.
great, but
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. I wonder how many adults that are having children don't know these things as well, right? Like for me, right, where my mom is the one that gave me false information because that's what she believed, that's what she understood, wherever that information came from, right? I wonder how many adults are continuing in their life not having this information because either their mothers forgot to tell them or their mothers didn't know either because it is sort of a failing of information and a lack of general knowledge and interest in, because maybe people are afraid if they Google search vagina anything, they'll get porn or they'll be flagged in some way or it looks a certain way. And,
Mhm.
it's really interesting. And I wonder also how that will continue to change now that these younger generations have grown up with access to information and like if that's going to change over time the knowledge that people have because they'll have been able to research as they want to even secretly on their phone at night about their body and things like that.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm getting my first group of COVID kids coming to college now who were
Mm.
in high school and the end of
Whoa.
Oh my
the end of
gosh. So
middle
they were
school.
all online then, right?
Yeah, so they're I'll see what I get from them. I think it's going to be
Yeah.
interesting to see how what our little COVID kids know as they start coming in. We think they're this digital generation that knows everything, and then it turns out that they're not that great actually at finding the right information.
Right.
And there's a lot of bad information out there.
Right. That's a good
Yeah.
point, is even if they're searching, it's hard
Right.
now to know what's credible and what's real and the stuff you're right. I mean, how many people of that generation are relying on TikTok for valid
Oh
information that is
God.
so far from
Please
correct?
don't.
That's a great
So,
point.
Tracy,
Yeah.
where would you recommend then where people, I mean, like if there's listeners all over United States, not just Texas,
Mhm.
what would you recommend for resources that are good
I
for
mean, there's so many really good books written for
Mhm.
kids of all ages on this.
Mhm.
But even older, adults can read, these books that talk about their bodies. My body, what was it? Our Bodies Ourselves has
Yep.
a website that's really good.
Yep.
Planned Parenthood has a website that's really good, gives a lot of good information. Going to a .org is always better than going to a .com. I have to be real careful and when I have my students write papers and stuff because like I have them write sometimes about, well, we used to have choices in pregnancy choices in Texas, which we no longer have. But when you would Google, for the most part, when you Google like abortion or like unwanted pregnancy, the first results all tend to be things that look like they're going to help you and tell you about your choices, and they all are actually religious run websites that
Right.
look very legitimate, but
Mhm.
are all about just saying you have to have the baby. Um,
Wow.
and I have to show them the bias, right? And like
Mhm.
look and see the bias. And sometimes they'll even have like a tab like abortion, but they'll put in all that will be there will be things like women who have abortions are more likely to have breast cancer and are going to
Yeah.
have, cervical cancer, like all
Scare
these like
tactics.
scary things
Yeah.
Yeah.
listed for them. So I have to be intentional in how I tell them to look up information
Yeah.
and where to go to. Unfortunately, that's getting harder to find as even our, like the CDC and the NIH used to be good places to go, and they're taking down the sites that give good information these
Yeah.
days. But definitely, yeah, the internet is not the best for looking this stuff up unless you go to these more vetted websites
Mhm.
to try to learn more about it, which I encourage everyone to do. And I know it's can be really uncomfortable to talk to kids, but it's way more uncomfortable to try and sit down with a 16-year-old boy and talk to him about puberty and sex than it is to have had small conversations along the way
Right.
so that it's not just this one big, like, let me tell you everything when they've already heard a whole bunch of stuff from their friends. Like, this is if you don't talk to your kid till they're 16, like, they're just going to be embarrassed and not want to hear it because they've heard it from their friends and their friends' older siblings and gotten all this information from them that's, right or not right. And it, we want to try to avoid that as much as possible, but
Mhm.
adults definitely need to have an understanding of their own bodies and how things work as well. But there's a lot of great books out there. There's a lot of great ways that you can, make yourself aware of your inner workings.
Yeah.
And both men and women need to have more and better understanding of that for sure.
Well,
Yeah.
I think I've never heard this kind of method you're talking about is starting when they're young and giving them a little bit for them to digest. And when they get more curious, they ask for more. But, it's this slow, gradual buildup, which is really smart rather than trying to pour it all on it, like, when they're in eighth grade or something or high school or whatever.
Yeah.
So
And
that's
just
interesting.
answering their questions, like, my son would ask, like, what's a period? And I would say, well, remember how we know how women have eggs? And then I just talked about how the female body builds up a place in case there's a baby. But if there is no baby, then the tissues and stuff that would have supported the baby have to come out. And so they come out and women bleed for a few days while that happens. And then he was like, does it hurt? And I said sometimes, but we have cramps. I don't go into the whole like cervix widening or any of that. Um, Not quite there yet at 12. But but when he asks questions, I'm going to answer them. I'm going to give my
That's
answer. I'm
great.
not because your first instinct is to just be like, go watch TV, right?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
I don't want to talk
Yeah.
about this. Is scary to talk about. But
Or
if
they
you
think that if you don't tell your kids about it, they won't have sex, which is ridiculous.
Right.
And they think that if they don't know and I don't talk to them about it, maybe they won't ever experiment,
Mhm.
like, oh, come on, give me a break.
No, it's
Yeah.
not. And I mean, the statistics are that between 80 and 90% of high school seniors will have had some form of sexual contact before they
Oh,
graduate from high
interesting.
school.
80 to 90%. That's
Yeah.
high. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
they start young. Like and again, they're not, and girls aren't talked about having their own sexual agency. They're not talked about the fact
Yeah.
that they don't have to do things if they don't want to.
Mhm.
A lot
Right.
of my female students report that their first sexual experience, whatever it was not, they didn't want to do it.
Consensual. It
Mm.
wasn't
But yeah,
consensual. Mhm.
it was either non-consensual or they were kind of bullied into it, right? Their boyfriend said, if you loved me, you do this,
Everybody else is doing
yes,
it.
everyone else is doing it. Like, I don't want to have to break up with you, but if you're not going to do this,
Yeah.
then, blah,
Yeah.
blah. Like they're coerced, almost, I mean, it's the majority of my female students report that they were coerced in some way or it was, some sort of unconsensual of whatever it was, but
Yeah.
it wasn't their choice.
Yeah.
They were not the ones wanting it. It wasn't a mutual talk between them and their partner. Um, it was more of a, oh, I'll get blue balls and
Right.
this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then
Well, I
like this.
remember a few years ago or so, I was with your daughter, with my niece, and we were driving somewhere, and she said something to me to the effect of she was one of the few people left in her school that was still a virgin. And I was like, and I think she might have been even at like, I can't remember. It was like either the end of middle school or like a freshman in high school. And I was like, honey, that is not true. But like that was a belief that she had because these are things she was hearing in school or maybe from somebody that she was spending time with or whatever. But like, I'm grateful that she had said that so that I could say, well, that's not true. And, and I think kind of proof of, Tracy, the way that you raised them, that she's also come to me with very specific language, asking me very specific questions about things because she felt safe doing so. And she knew what she was asking and talking about. And that was really great because I was able to be like, after I internally freaked out for a moment and then was like, okay, like, great, now
Yeah.
let's
I mean,
answer this question.
I'm so lucky that I have you. Like I'm an only
Oh,
child, so you are my sister.
Mhm.
And I'm your sister, so all you have is
Yeah,
stupid brothers.
that's true.
But like I'm so glad that you're here. I know we don't live in the best place, but that she has you because I know there's things she doesn't want to talk to me about because I'm
Yeah,
the mom. It doesn't matter. I'm the coolest mom in the world.
yeah,
Right? If you want to talk about like who's going to know about everything about this, it's going to be me. But
I
I know I'm still mom.
right.
Right. And she still wants to have someone else to be able to talk. And I love that she has you as another adult to come to that she knows she can be open with and talking to. And I wish every child had
Yeah,
someone
yeah,
besides their parent. Because as much as we want to know everything, like, I mean, I obviously didn't tell my mom everything or
right.
anything. Right? I mean, as far as I know, my mom thinks I had sex twice and now I have two kids. Right?
that's great.
So
Huh.
yeah, it's I like it would be great if kids had that, but even if they don't have an Auntie Patty in their life, having parents that are open to it is just
Yeah,
so very important.
Or a
So,
therapist, a
so
good therapist.
yeah. Or a counselor
yeah.
at
In there.
school.
At a school,
Yes,
right?
definitely.
A school therapist, right? I mean, I think most schools, well, I don't know about Texas, here has some kind of counseling benefit for high school students. So
Yeah,
Yeah, I can say they're not the best here in Texas and what
probably
we're
if they
allowed to
went
talk
into the school, they'd probably be shut down. Like, oh, you shouldn't be having sex, and you're gonna die from this if you keep doing. I
yeah,
could see it be, like really rigid thinking, but
Yeah,
not here
it's
in Massachusetts. Here, we're like California, so
yeah,
Yeah, my students who come from Chicago, who come from California, who come from a lot of the East Coast states, northern East Coast states, like they were just like, what are you guys talking about? Like in
right.
high school, they told us everything. Like they brought in models and showed us how to do
yeah,
this and how everything works. And my students from here were like, what? Like you had that in high school?
That's
Like they
great.
talked to you about that in high school? And
yeah.
they were just like, yeah, like they gave us condoms.
Yeah,
That was
I'm really grateful I grew up in San Francisco, and going to a San Francisco public school. Like I really got, even though I wasn't there for a lot of school, when I was there, especially in my health class, I did get good information and I was well informed and they did do models of things. Whether or not I retain that information, clearly not all of it, but it was there and it was available. And that was really amazing to have. And I know that's not something that all places have, especially in some of these states.
Yeah, we kind of call it the inverted T, like going down the middle of America and then across. That's where we see a lot of the abstinence-only programs,
Hmm.
especially here in the South, and in the Midwest area,
Yeah.
that don't, and those are where we have the most teenage pregnancies.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
that's also
Yep.
where we're losing the most abortion rights and
Yep.
rights
Yep.
for,
All the
I mean,
above.
they're even trying to
Interesting.
take birth control away now.
Yep.
So.
Oh man.
I've stocked up on Plan B pills and I've let my daughter know I have them. And I've said, if your friends need them or if you need them, like I have them. And I'm not going to ask why and I'm not going to do anything. If you just tell me you need them and I will give them to you.
Yeah.
Because I don't
And what
know
are
if
you
I.
talking about, Tracy? Plan B? What?
Oh, so Plan B pills are like the morning after
The
pill.
morning after pill.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Um, And again, people don't know a lot about that either. Like it's not an abortion pill. There are
Right.
abortion pills where you have a
Mhm.
medical abortion.
Yeah.
That's different. Plan B stops you from ovulating so that if you haven't ovulated, hopefully, it'll make you not ovulate so that the sperm can't meet the egg. It doesn't ensure you won't get pregnant, but it cuts it down significantly.
Well,
Um, but if you have already ovulated and a sperm, you've had sex, like you can
too
still be
late.
pregnant
Yeah.
with the Plan
Right.
B
The
pill.
pill's not going to do anything about that.
Correct.
Yeah.
It is not an abortion pill.
Okay.
Even though they like to call it that. And
Yeah.
there's lots of things they like to call things that aren't true.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. This is so great. This is so helpful. And
Yes.
it's such a fascinating look at the way we all learn about our bodies in this country specifically. I mean, potentially the world, but definitely in this country, the lack of knowledge or the areas where there is a little bit more knowledge.
Yeah.
The inverted T
The
needs,
inverted T.
Yeah.
but unfortunately, that's not going to happen right now.
Yeah.
We've got a little time because of the other T. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
but
but
yeah, we're not exactly going in a direction where it's going to be helpful for women,
right,
especially and women's reproductive health,
right.
Right.
for sure.
Right.
Yeah. But the beautiful thing is there are people like us sharing information. This is our way of sort of being here during these times to share information. You stocking up on Plan B, you teaching in school, you saying if your friends need support, here I am. Like there are so many people, and we have a local community that we're a part of here in Texas that are really big on that. And you are not the only one that has stockpiled Plan B in that community. And so I think that the really amazing thing is that there are people right now that, while there is information being pulled, are out there being like, good, well, here's information. I'm going to continue to provide information to people who need it and who are interested in it, and kind of stand up to what we're at during this time. So, we can support each other through it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Well, this is great. Thank you do you have any questions or anything else, Jan, on your end to,
No, thank you,
yeah.
Tracy. I
Yeah.
really have learned a lot just listening to you. Thank you for coming on.
All
Yeah.
right, thank you guys
Thank
for
you.
having me. It's
Yeah.
exciting, my first podcast.
I know. It's so exciting.
Yeah,
Thank you.
keep doing what you're doing.
I will.
Yeah.
I don't plan on stopping. I need the income.
Right.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. If you like what you've heard, please share it with friends, subscribe, and leave a review.
And remember, information shared on this podcast is not medical advice. If you have a concern about your physical or mental health, please seek support from a professional.
If you have a story you'd like to share about things your mother forgot to mention, you can apply to be a guest.
We'd also love to hear a quick 90-second thing you've learned in your life.
You can find links to both of those over at our website at
thingsmymotherforgottomention.com or in the show notes.
Thank you.